All right, welcome everybody to week 9, day 1. And we're going to continue our discussion of weapons today. We're going to have left click be a traceline weapon. We're going to have right click be a projectile weapon. And we're going to integrate some monsters in as well. So, I just died. Oh, no, I'm going to die. Alright, so, why is that producing two things? It's kind of weird. So what I produced was these projectile weapons here. Oh, I died. Okay. And what the projectile weapons do, they're these little cats. I think I added something new on there that I need to get rid of. But yeah, it's this little like cat projectile thing, and you can see my quality modeling skills there. You can see it's a couple boxes. There's a texture of a cat on the head of it. It's quite horrible. I don't know what this thing is. I need to get rid of that, I think. Okay, so anyhow, so I've got these cat projectiles. And then here come the monsters after me, maybe. And anyhow, when here, I'll just restart. I can have all these cats like that, and then if I hit Q, they lock on, and so they become like heat-seeking missiles, kind of. So if I hit Q, then it does a trace line, and the cats will, if I hit Q and hit the thing, you can see they fly into them and lock in. So kind of cool. Kind of cool stuff. Does your cat eat chicken nuggets? So I guess first of all I want to figure out why it's producing two projectiles. Input action attack. Okay, that's the confetti ball. And what is the right click? Okay. Okay. Why is it making two cats? I think I was messing around and it somehow spawns that weird cat football thing now, which is kind of weird. Oh, yeah. Maybe that's why. Okay. Let's delete that. Make life simple. Yeah, it's goofing around, I think. Alright, so now when I right click, there we go, the cats fly out. There we go. Okay. And so you can either shoot them directly like that, and they inflict damage, but I can also toss them up in the air, like that, and then hit Q and get this cool, like, heat-seeking rocket effect. Okay, so the kitties you can make. This is just a projectile that is a horrible mockery of what a cat looks like. There you go. Last time I think we just made like a cylinder or something as our projectile. It doesn't really matter. I was just goofing around at this. And the important thing is on the projectile is like when it hits something, right? So last time what we did was we said when we hit a target, inflict damage on it, right? And if the thing that we hit didn't take damage, the inflict damage would just do nothing. Now what we're doing is we're making like a rocket launcher, okay? So basically the thing is going to do this here. So this is called apply radial damage with fall off. So this is how you do explosions, okay? So last time we learned how to do traceline, and traceline would inflict damage directly on a target, or we would have a projectile weapon, and then when the projectile touched something, it would inflict damage on the target. But that's direct damage. This is how you do radius damage, okay? So let me explain kind of what's going on here. So when I have a separate blueprint and actor class for the projectile, like you should have that that cylinder or whatever it is we made last time. It doesn't have to look like a horrible mockery of a cat. And so what I have here is my event hit. And so the first thing I do actually is check to see if the thing that I hit is another projectile. Because if you launch a bunch of projectiles at the same time, what would happen is that they'd all hit each other and explode. Right? And so what I did was I made it so that you could click and launch a bunch of cats at the same time without them all blowing up on each other. And so if you want to check to see if what you hit is a cat, or if you want to check to see if what you hit is a person, or if you want to check to see if what you hit is a sock goblin, the easiest way of doing it is using the cast to function, which seems like kind of a weird thing, but what cast to means is convert the type of this actor here into another type. And so whenever you hit something, it's going to be of type actor. You can, if you mouse over it, you can see it's an actor. An actor is just a generic term for anything that can appear in the world. This is going to try to convert that into a kitty. A kitty is the name of this blueprint that we're within right now. And if it failed, then it moves on to here. And if it succeeded, nothing happens. So basically, if we touch another object and the thing that we touch is another cat, do absolutely nothing. Okay, does that make sense? So this is how I kept my projectiles from running into each other. And you could do the same thing, like, I know I was having trouble with my cylinder last time, where I was shooting the cylinder and then I would run into it and it would blow up, right? And so this is the trick that you use. So you have it when the projectile hits, let's say, the player, you say just do nothing if you hit the player. And so you could say cast to third person character, or I renamed my main character in this one. Does that make sense? This is how you can, like, kind of selectively run into things, right? So your projectiles don't explode on each other, or they don't explode on the person shooting them, which is quite common. You guys understand on Discord? Let me know if this little clever bit here makes sense. And so what I'm doing here is I'm also ignoring if it is the player. So if the projectile hits the kitty, or if the projectile hits the player, don't do anything. Okay. So you guys watching this on Discord, you understand? This is a kind of a clever way of just being like, yeah, don't don't explode on these two things here. Okay. All right. So, so then when the cat hits something, it explodes. I have I made a particle effect for it. You can just use the default explosion. The location that it explodes at is the place where it hit. And then it will apply radial damage. Okay. So this is kind of the main idea for today. So we've got point damage through traceline, we have point damage through impact, now we've got radial damage. And this is basically kind of it. The only other type of damage that matters is like a dot, a damage over time. And to do something like that, you would create a timer, and the timer would periodically call direct damage on the player or whatever. And we can learn how to do timers some other time. They're pretty important. So what's happening here with the apply radial damage of fall off is that it does 50 damage, falling off to 10. So at the edge of the radius, it does 10 damage. In the center, it does 50. At the edge, it does 10. Okay. The origin of the explosion is the point of contact where the projectile hit the sock goblin or whatever. The inner radius is 150. That means for 1.5 meters, it will do full damage, and then it falls off down to 10 damage at 5 meters. Okay. So you can control kind of the damage curve coming out of your fireballs or grenades or whatever. There's these values here allow you to tweak that extensively. Last time we talked about Damage types, briefly, basically you can create new damage types like fire, electricity, cold, whatever, water, I don't know. In games I've written, I have systems like that. I'm just not worrying about it right now. But you can make it so that like sock goblins take half damage from fire or whatever. Radial damage also has the ability to ignore certain people. It takes an array. Okay. So how do you make an array in blueprints? Well, there is a node called make array, and it looks like this when you first do it. It looks a little weird. It looks like this. Okay. And it's gray here because it doesn't really know what it's supposed to be. And so what I'm doing is I'm getting player character and I'm feeding that into array element 1. And you can see the output here now changes to blue. Blue is the universal color for actors. And so everything in Unreal Engine is color-coded for your convenience. So you know that this takes an array of actors. Arrays look like that 3x3 grid. This is an array, and you can simply hook it up like that. Now, you might notice, though, that this version has 2 things in the array. An array is just like a group of, a collection of objects or something. So if you look at the add pin plus thing here, you can see you can add more and more things to the array. So if you had 70 objects that you wanted to not damage with your grenade, you could connect each of them here, and you could hook them all up. I only have 2. I have the player character and self. Self is the kitty. So the kitty does not take damage from the explosion. It's about to go away in a second, but in the meantime, don't inflict damage on it because I don't think I have. I don't think I actually have damage on the kitty, but I think that I was thinking about it. In other words, that if like the sock goblin came up and like or somebody shot the kitty out of the sky, it would blow up, right? And I don't want it blowing up on itself, on its own damage. That'd be really weird. And so I'm just saying ignore the rocket launcher that's exploding. Don't damage it because then it would explode from the damage that it did itself, and that would be really weird. So I just ignore the main character and I ignore the projectile weapon, and that feeds into ignore actors. The damage causer is the person who is me, actually, the damage causer. And then the person who owned me is... I need to get the controller off this. Is this one. And so, instigated by controller. So what that means is who gets the point for the kill, right? So Alex, shoots somebody in Destiny 2 with his laser beams or whatever, and then they die, right? You want Alex to get the point for the kill, right? That's what this thing here is for. Who gets credit for the kill? Okay. So if you throw a grenade, it's the grenade doing the damage, but you need to know who to give credit for throwing the grenade, right? And so if you're not going to do a point system, it doesn't matter. You saw that I didn't even have it hooked up before because I don't have a scoreboard or anything like that right now. But this is probably the correct way of doing it. You can see all my audio cables in the back there. I should probably roll those up for hooking up to the bass and the guitar and stuff like that in the background. So, got a keyboard down there too, if you can see that. Yeah. So we have a little practice amp, some 1/4-inch cables, or it's a mirrored keyboard, some Asus stickers right here. And then you can have it set so that like walls will block damage, right? So anything that, in this case, anything that has physics enabled on it will block damage, but you can just make it so like any walls in the world will block damage. So like the explosions don't travel through walls and things like that. So you can choose to, basically what the damage goes through. And then at the end of the day, we destroy the cat, and that's it. So I will screenshot this, and that is basically a rocket launcher right there. So this is a rocket launcher. Just like that. It's up on Discord. Okay, and then this part here, this is the heat-seeking element of it. So, yeah. Have we talked about begin play in this class? I don't know if we have yet. Have we talked about this? Meredith, Alex, Pata? Have we talked about begin play? It's pretty important. I don't know if we've talked about it this semester, though. You guys here? Am I talking to myself? Pat is typing. I don't think so, yeah. This is actually a really important thing. So we've talked about event hit. We've talked about event tick. Event tick happens every frame. Event hit happens when the thing impacts something. Event begin play happens once, and it happens when the object is created. It is very common to have something happen when an object is created. For example, I am setting a variable on myself called the main character. And what I do is I basically get player 0, the main character, convert it, use the casting thing again there, convert this from a pawn to the main character class. That's my blueprint. And save a variable. So I'm basically saving the main character as a variable. The reason why I do that is because I don't want to have to do this every tick. So whenever you have something on event tick, you really don't want to do expensive operations every frame of the game. It will destroy your frame rate. And so one of the things that I do to speed that up is rather than getting the player and casting them to a main character, which is kind of slow, it's not the most expensive thing in the world, it's kind of slow. Rather than doing this every frame, I do it once and I save it as a variable over here. And then down here in event tick, I just grab that variable rather than having to do that every time. Okay, so once I do that, this is also very common, right? Usually on begin play, you're going to set certain variables. The time that I was created, you know, things like that, right? So like if you wanted to save the time that you were created, you could do something like this. Drag out. Actually, we'll need to do this, actually. Get time. Let's see, get time in seconds. And then I'm just going to right click on this and choose promote to variable. Very useful thing. That makes the variable in the right type so that you don't have to like look it up, you know. And I just kind of hook that up here and hook that up here. And the name of the variable is going to be time of creation. And now I have saved the time that the kitty was made. Okay, so what I can do is, sounds like a bad name, time of creation. Yeah. It's interesting that it puts spaces in there. That's kind of wild. Huh. Right. So as main character has. Interesting. Okay. So what I can do now is like when the kitties are just kind of like flying around, I can say like, hey, has it been more than 5 seconds since I made the cat? If so, remove. Right. There's another way you can do that by just setting a maximum lifespan on the object, but I can just show you how to do this by hand. So save. Okay. So do you understand what I'm doing here? So when the cat is made, it gets the current time and it saves that into a variable. And then at any point later on, I can kind of look up on myself like, hey, how long has it been since I've been made? Maybe the damage goes down, right? The longer that it's been since I was created. Or maybe you just delete yourself after 5 seconds or something, right? So I'm saving the main character, and then after get time seconds, if time is greater than 0.02, meow on creation. Yeah, that was weird. There was like some weird meowing bug that I had, but basically what I'm saying is If the game has been up for more than 0.2 seconds, then get the time, compare it to 0.2 seconds. If the result there is true, then it's going to play a meow. And it's going to play the meow at this location here. Okay. All right, so down here in event tick, this is a very common construction in Unreal Engine. So what you do if you want something to happen like 3 times a second or something like that, instead of every frame, like 3 times a second is usually pretty good, right? For like AI stuff, things like that. What you can do is you can attach a delay node to event tick. And what that does, a delay node normally just, as the blueprint's running, like if I put a, let me just show you. If I put a delay node on here, and I put a 2-second delay, watch what happens. The blueprint runs and it comes to the delay and it just sits there for 2 seconds. Then it continues on. And so when my cats hit now, you see how like they're impacting, and then 2 seconds later they blow up, right? See that? So they hit, and then 2 seconds later they explode. Okay. That's what a delayed node does normally. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, boom. Yep. Okay. Catnade. So do you understand the delay node, Meredith, Alex, Pata? That's it. Just waits for a little bit of time. It's a very simple like timer kind of thing that we do. Very slowly, like you throw a grenade, and then the grenade explodes after 3 seconds. You just put a delay node in there with a delay of 3. It's easy. Okay, so delay is a little bit different when it comes to the timer. And the reason for this is because weird, it doesn't line up. Okay. The reason for it being kind of weird is because what happens is if you are currently handling an event, if you're handling an event currently, that event won't trigger again. So what happens is that event tick fires, and then it delays for 0.2 seconds. And during those 0.2 seconds, event tick will try firing over and over again, but it won't because one event tick is already active. And so what this has the effect of doing is saying rather than this being event tick, it is now event every 0.2 seconds. So it's a very simple way of making a timer. And there is a timer thing, and we'll talk more about that later. But what this has the effect of doing is if you have event tick hooked up to a delay, you can just print like hello, like this or whatever, or like TikTok or whatever. And you'll see that rather than it happening every frame, it happens, oh, wait, that's a cat. TikTok, TikTok. You fire it, TikTok, 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 right? So 5 times a second, it's printing TikTok. Rather than 120 frames a second or whatever it is we would normally get. So this is a very common thing we do to reduce the number of times we activate. You always want to be conscious of your frame rate and how much weird stuff you're doing. Okay, so so this is a heat-seeking thing. I'm not going to go into it because we haven't studied linear algebra yet. But what I do want to do is add to this a check for the cat being too old. So if the cat has been in the world for longer than 5 seconds, we're going to delete it. Okay. So we're going to do that. So we're going to do that by getting the current time. All right. And we're going to compare this against the time of creation, right? So we're going to drag out time of creation, hit get, and we're going to compare the two. And we can compare this using less than, greater than, it just depends, less than or equal to, however you want to do. But we want to say time of creation, we want to probably like add like, actually let's just make a new variable, I guess. Or, yeah. Make a new variable, and this is called lifespan or something like that. And we'll make this a float, compile, save, come over here, and down here I'm going to set the lifespan of the cat to be like 5 seconds. So I'm going to take the time of creation, nope, not set lifespan, sorry, and choose get lifespan. I'm going to add these two things together, plus. So I'm going to add together the time they were created. Let's say they were created at time 15. So they should die at time 20, right? So if the cat was made 15 seconds in, then once it's exceeded 20 seconds, we should delete the cat. So time of creation, lifespan added together, and then we're going to compare that against the current time. So the current time is greater than or equal to, it doesn't really matter. If the current time is greater than or equal to the time that it should die, then we need to drag this over, make a new branch. Branch is how you do if-then kind of things. So if it is not time to die, then we'll just do the regular stuff. If it is time to die, then I want it to explode, right? Or do you want it to just like quietly just have it vanish, or do you want it to blow up? You tell me. We can do either. So the true branch here is if it's time to die. So do you want it to just silently fade into the night, or do you want it to rage against the coming darkness? What would you prefer when it's time to die? Fade away? Okay. Destroy actor self, and we're done. Okay. So create a cat. And see that? It just vanished. I'm dead. Okay, so 5 seconds later, that cat just vanished. You see that? So that's kind of a manual way of doing a maximum lifespan on a projectile, and that's actually something that you always have to have, because your network code and your server will not be happy with you if you allow players to create objects with a click that never go away. It will be problematic. Let me tell you. I've had players crash the server before by just shooting bullets straight up into the sky until the server crashed. If we wanted to blow up instead, we can actually pull a sneaky here and just attach this to the spawn system location thing here, like that. So this is the heat-seeking code, really. So what I have down here is my heat-seeking code, but also if the thing runs out of its maximum lifespan, I'm actually running a line over into the other blueprint here, which is the cat hit something. Exploding kittens, that kind of stuff. So this way I don't have to recreate any of the code, right? That's one of the nice things about blueprints, is that it allows you to just be like, oh yeah, I actually need it to explode and play, do damage and all that kind of stuff. So if I do that now, then when these cats hit their when they hit their maximum lifespan, let's see if I can do this right, they detonate. You see that? That guy got launched. Okay, so watch. After 5 seconds, they detonate. Okay. The explosions are coming from the wrong place, though. So that I outsmarted myself. The location of the spawn system is 0, 0, 0, I think. So, yeah. Rather than doing that, I should probably get the just location of the cat, really. Because the explosion should be radiating from the middle of the cat, right? So, let's just do this instead. Cube. Get world location. And that will be the location where the explosion comes from, and that's going to be the location where the damage comes from as well. Okay. Do you guys understand what's happening there? Because I hooked it up this way, there was no input on this, so it was just probably defaulting to 0, 0, 0 or something. So what I'm doing now is not really, I don't need any of this stuff now. If it hits its maximum lifespan, the explosion is now going to come from the cat's location. And the damage too, for that matter. Okay, good. It's working now. Any questions? That's kind of the end of the road for weapons and things like that. You only really have traceline weapons, projectile weapons that impact, and projectile weapons that explode. You can also have traceline weapons that explode too. We could do that if you want. Do you guys want to have a projectile weapon that explodes? Okay. So I've already got left click and right click both bound to weapons. So let's make a new keybind. Maybe kitty launcher, designate target. Maybe I don't know, E or something. And we'll call this one exploding laser. I don't know. Give me an idea. Toss out some ideas for me. You guys have been pretty quiet today. What kind of exploding traceline weapon do you want to make? Trace rifle. Okay. Trace rifle. And we'll bind this. If you just click on that, and hit E, there you go. Easy way of doing a binding. Because doing the search, when you type E, it pulls up everything that has E in it, right? So that's a nice little quick way of doing that. So we'll come down here, save, come into the main character blueprint, and we're going to need a new zone, and the new zone will have event trace rifle. So that's how easy it is. Remember to bind key commands. So every time they hit E, it's going to do this. Every time you let off the E key, it will do this. Okay, so let's run through doing a traceline weapon again. Meredith, this should probably help a little bit. So First step, bind a key. Second step, add an input for the event. And we're just going to make it so when they tap the E key, it will fire a trace line. So we're going to come in here, and do you want to have a firing rate, maybe? Like, so you can't just spam. Do you want to do like a firing rate or something like that? I'm going to unmute all of you so you can at least chat with me so you don't have to like switch over and type. One shot for 3 seconds. Okay. All right, all of you are unmuted now, so just call out ideas. Like I really do mean that, you know, game development is supposed to be interactive. Like, you know, just call out ideas, and then I'll make them. I'll turn your dreams into reality or something, as long as it has something to do with the class. Okay, so let's maybe, yeah, one shot every 3 seconds. Okay, yeah, okay, we can do that. Pata, your mic's unmuted, just so you know. Okay. So, yeah, okay, set up the HUD, and then over here, we haven't done HUDs yet. We're just gonna get the current time, get time in seconds, get game time in seconds. Okay. And we are just gonna right click, promote this to a variable, and we are going to set up shot variable. Actually, we don't need to do this. We actually don't need to do that. We're just gonna have this new variable, and it's gonna be called last trace rifle shot time, and that's okay. Pat, I'm muting you again. So this variable here is just gonna hold the last time we clicked. Okay, and we're just gonna have it default to 0. So easy. We don't need to get the current time currently, actually. Okay, so coming down here to fire the trace rifle. What we want to do is say, hey, has it been at least 3 seconds since the last time we fired? Okay, and so this will be very similar to what we just did up above. So we get the current, we get the last time we fired. We add 3 to it, and I will actually promote this to a variable as well. Right click, promote to variable, and this variable will be called trace rifle firing rate. And after I compile it and save it, you'll see that it actually steals the value from the pin there, so it's already set properly to 3 seconds. So basically, this, if the last time we fired the rifle was 10 seconds into the game, then the next time we can fire is 13 seconds into the game. So we have to compare this with the current time. If it's less than, it actually doesn't matter. You can make it work either way. And this one will be get time in seconds. Okay. So if the current time in seconds is greater than 13 or whatever we've calculated, then it's okay to fire. So we'll do a branch, and click here, and as always, just start off with a print string. Anytime you do development, it's always important to do a print string. I know there's a temptation to just try and copy my blueprints just wholesale, but like the reason why I go through this step by step in the videos is because I want you to be building your games step by step and just testing along the way. And this code will work halfway. So let me show you what I mean. So I come in here, and if I hit E, you can see it says hello, 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 but it's not limiting my firing. Okay. Now the reason why it's not limiting my firing is because I'm not setting last trace rifle shot time, so I need to do that. So I need to come in here and let's do this. Set the value to the current time. Just like that. So if I spam clicking now, you'll see that it'll only print out let's do it, firing trace rifle. It'll only print this out once every 3 seconds now. Just want to make sure I didn't leave a print somewhere in here. Okay. It's good to do print strings just to verify your thing works, but I've got that number in there, and I forgot where I put that. Okay, so if I click, it says firing trace rifle, and then after 3 seconds, I can hit it again, firing trace rifle. But if I spam it, it still will only say firing trace rifle once every 3 seconds. So this is another way you could do a delay, a 3-second delay. Another way you could have done that would be to hook up a delay node to this as well. So if you keep clicking input action trace rifle while the 3-second delay is taking place, it will not fire again. So nice. Okay. So either way, it's all good. Now we need to do the trace line. Okay. So can you add something? Sure. What do you want to add? When you release the E button, it causes an explosion. Okay. So you want to do like a charging thing where you, like we did, kind of like last time. You hold down to click, and then when you release it, it will do the explosion. Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, sure. Actually, what we have here is perfect. Like I said, I actually do this kind of stuff a lot rather than using a delay, simply because a lot of times you want to know when was the last time I fired. And this would actually be perfect because now we can say on release, do an explosion based on how long we've been charging the shot for. Okay. So on release, we will now fire. And so we're going to do a trace line. Line trace by channel, like this. And I should probably clean this up a little bit. Whatever. Okay. So line trace by channel, and the starting location is going to be the firing point that I've set up. I think we did this before, right? We used a little scene component or a box collision or something, just to be able to mark a point in space. We can name a point in space. The skeletal meshes also have these things called sockets, so like you could attach weapons to like sockets and things like that. We'll probably have a talk about that at some point as well. For now, we're just going to use that firing point. So the firing point is going to be bit world location. So that is going to be the point our shot comes from. And then the point that it's going to go to is the firing point plus the direction we're looking times whatever our range is. Okay, so trace rifle is from Destiny, same as the fusion rifle, but single shot. Okay, instead of pellet spread. Okay, all right. So the question though, like there's actually a question of like which way you're looking, right? Because we have our camera, right? But that's not exactly the same way as the direction the player's looking. You see that? So the camera doesn't always, match the, especially when you're in a third-person view, right? Like you can have the thing kind of be a little weird like that. See how I did it before. I think I just want to keep it consistent. Just getting so we're getting the direction the camera looks. Okay, that works for me. All right, so camera, and we're going to get the direction the camera is looking. So the direction the camera is looking is forward, and it's a unit vector. It's a centimeter. And so basically we want to start at point A and then travel from point A 10,000 units in the direction we're looking. And we do that via addition. So we're going to take this, multiply it by a float. That float we're going to call range, trace rifle range. And again, I did that by right-clicking on the constant and promoting it to a variable. So yeah, looks pretty good. So you have to compile and save, and then if you click on trace rifle range, you can put in a maximum range here. I'll do a range of 30 meters. I might have one extra zero in it. There. Okay, add a reticle to the frame. You like for a HUD, something like that? You want to do a HUD? We can do a HUD, but let's do the line trace again. So this plus this is the endpoint. Okay. So basically we have a starting point A, and then we add the direction we're looking times 30 meters, and that's point B. And then we're going to do a trace line from point A to point B. Whenever you do a trace line, always make sure you turn on draw debug. For draw time 5 seconds. That should be fine. That way you can see if you did your trace line right. It's very common to do the math wrong, especially when you're starting off, to get your linear algebra wrong. We haven't even had a linear algebra talk yet, so it's quite common to get it wrong. So always turn on draw debug. And 5 seconds might be a little long, but either way, it works. And so if we run this, we don't need a print string, because we can simply do that. And you can see, because the thing persists in the world for 5 seconds, you can actually see how far the thing is shooting, and it's coming out of the right place. Okay. And it went through a wall, but the green means that it doesn't actually do anything. I do have a post-process filter up on here, which is why you're getting that strong vignette effect. It turns dark when you're on top of the platform there. That's just a post-process camera effect. Okay. Okay, so that's working. Okay, so now we're doing our line trace. Okay. So, if we hit something, we want to explode at that point. We don't want to just do damage. We want to explode at that point. So, one thing I always do with the trace line by channel is I right-click and I choose Split Struct Pin. If you don't want to do that, a lot of people you'll see do this instead. They'll pull it out and do break hit result, which does the same thing, but just with more nodes on the screen. So I like to just right-click on that and choose Split. And then that gives you all the different options on your hit. So the first thing I would do is just say, like, if we didn't hit anything, like, we're done, right? It's like if we shot it up into the air, no explosion, just do nothing, right? So I'm going to pull out of the return value here. The return value is just true or false. Did we hit something? Feed that into a branch. And if we didn't hit anything, like, I don't know, don't do anything, right? But if we did hit something, then let's do an explosion there. So if we did hit something, then let's just do spawn emitter or whatever. Let's draw a little explosion there. And the location is the hit location. It's the place where our trace line hit the ground. We're going to draw an explosion there. That's fine. And then we need to do radial damage. So you can either do apply radial damage, which is just a simple 50 damage to everything nearby, or you can do the more complicated radial damage with fall off. I showed you radial damage with fall off before, so I'll show you the simpler one this time, and we will just simply do 100 damage in a 10 meter radius. Okay. And the origin of the explosion, don't forget that, is going to come from the point we hit. So from whatever point we hit, it's going to explode from there. What we should do is have it charge up, and the damage should be based on the charge time, but we're just going to get this going for now. The actors to ignore should be us, so I'm going to drag out of here and just say make array. And I'm just going to add player character 0. Actually, self, I think, would probably work at this point. Get player character 0. So we're going to make our weapon not hurt us. Now, maybe you want it to hurt you. I don't know. Yeah. So it's a weapon you can't shoot at close range or something. But yeah, I'm going to have it ignore me. And that's it. So that is a traceline weapon that explodes when it hits something. I say before I test it. Let's test it first. Okay, so hold down E and release. Okay, that didn't work. Hold down E and release. Okay. Debug time. I wonder if it's not hitting anything. One simple trick that scientists hate. Let's just have it explode no matter what. So if we hit the air, who cares? All right, holding down E and release. Holding down E and release. See it? Yeah, it hit something. All right. Debug time. Line traceline channel. Release. Currently, we're not, like, we don't have the minimum charge time. That's something to add, but... Oh, maybe I should pick the particle explosion. That might help. Okay. Okay, so it is, it's working, it's not killing the sock goblins. Let's take a look over here. So that's where our print string is coming from. Anytime it takes damage, it is supposed to print how much damage it takes. And if it ever drops below 0, it dies and removes itself. For some reason it's not doing the radial damage. Only hit components that block the visibility channel. That might be why. Well, okay. Let's make our own radial damage then. Okay. So respawn emitter, and rather than doing a line trace, well, yeah, actually, yeah, let's do that. So we'll do a line trace, and then we're going to do a sphere trace. So this is something new. So sphere trace by channel is going to do a radius search around this point. What point? This point. The point that our trace line hit. So that's our starting point, that's our ending point. And so this is a what you would call a find radius function. Why the array? This right here? Well, I deleted it. But those are the actors to ignore, right? And so I didn't want the radius explosion to hurt me. And so get player character like this. So this is going to say don't find the player. Okay. So this is going to do a radius search and a radius of 10 meters. And it's going to find everybody within this 10 meter radius of the point of impact of our trace rifle. And ignore self. So it should actually be ignoring us anyway because this is on the main character. Okay, so I don't need that. Okay. And then what we're going to do here, split struct spin. Oh, this is sphere trace by channel. No, we need a multi-sphere trace. Sorry. We want to find everybody within multi-sphere trace by channel. What we're going to do is find everybody within 10 meters of that explosion point. Okay. And the point is the point of impact of our trace line. 10 meters, ignore myself, draw debug for a 5-second duration. Good. And then what this is going to do, it's going to return an array of everything that was hit. Okay. And before we do that, I just want to show you what this looks like. So every time I shoot now, you see how there's that radius there? So when I shoot the trace rifle now, it will show me the radius of the explosion. That's a 10 meter radius right there. Okay, for 5 seconds, it shows that. Now these guys are going to be probably pathing over to me, and you can see right there, all those points there are the hits on the slot goblins. Okay, so it's and I died. Okay, that's fine. All right, so. That's kind of what the debug looks like on a multi-sphere trace by channel. It tells you everybody within the radius that got hit. Okay. So this needs a for loop. And a for loop says for every person hit, like that. Okay. So for every person hit, do something. And what we're going to do is just start off by printing the name. Okay. Print string. And we will just print the name of get name called get index. That's the integer. Yeah, split. There we go. And the person that we hit is you, and we will get your name like that. And so what this is going to do, it's going to print the name of everybody within the radius that we hit. Okay. Frosty Doom Barrel, Sock Goblin 2, Cube 4, Cube 3, right? See, it's telling me everything that it hit, including the walls, you know, the come over here. There's a Frosty 3, but you see how it impacted it multiple times, right? Because it's triggering, I think, on each of the components, not just the individual objects. Okay. So. So do you see what the problem is? Like it's hitting the same thing multiple times, right? Like if I come over here and do that, you see how it hits Sock Goblin 4 like repeatedly? Each of those red dots is a point of contact, right? So it's hitting the same thing multiple times. So you could, so to leave damage on a surface, you use multi-sphere to tell you what you hit. Yeah, and then you could like change the amount of soot on the surface using those. Do you remember how we talked about material instances and things like that? Where you can set a variable on a material, and so you can have a variable on the material be how dirty it is, and then when there's an explosion, you increase the dirtiness every time that surface takes damage. And in fact, it'll actually tell you. That's a physical material. Yeah. Well, yeah. You could get the material of the thing hit and then mess with the variable on it. So rather than doing this, which is going to hit every component, what we're going to do is a multi-sphere trace for objects, which is very similar. Click all that in the same. The start and end location is the same. There, the radius is going to be 10 meters the same, but we can specify what type of objects that we want to take. And I don't know if I have them set to pawn, actually. I don't remember how I did them. Let's see if that works. Let's find out. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so the so you see when I need to turn on debugging, multi-sphere trace for objects, draw debug for duration, 5 seconds. Okay. So check this out. So when I shoot the thing now, you see how it's not reporting anything, right? But if I do this, you see how it says Sock Goblin 2, just once, not repeatedly. And if I gather up all these people here, it'll just list all the Sock Goblins, right? So that's exactly what I want. Okay. So fortunately, I had them set to pawns. I sometimes am lazy and don't do it properly. Okay, so Sock Goblin. I'm going to turn off that debug string there. It's just there, kind of spammy a little bit. Okay. So now under main character, now we've got it, right? So now we've got basically a system where every time the trace rifle hits, oh, is it still? Where are those numbers coming from then? I'm gonna have to go through. I like print string, but you always have to remember to take them out, otherwise it spams you like that. Okay. Okay. So there we go. So this system is successfully telling us who we are hitting, and not multiple times either. Okay. So come out of here. For each loop, we are gonna just inflict damage. Okay. We're gonna apply damage, and we are going to do 50 damage to the Sock Goblin. I think, how much health do they have? Goblins have 60 health. Okay. So they should be able to take 2 shots before they die. So, the person we hit. And, like I said, we'll just leave the rest alone. There. Saw that? That was fast, right? One shot and 2 shots. Kill them all. One shot, 2 shot, dead. Okay. Debugging. Yeah, debugging is great. For example, if I'm worried if the Sock Goblins are not taking damage, without doing that whole print string thing, which I said, it gets a little spammy if you have multiple of them. What you can do is you can set a breakpoint, right? So like here, event any damage, add breakpoint, F9 is the shortcut for it. So what we can do now is play, and then if these guys ever take damage, it'll pause the game, right? So if I hit that, boom. Usually you have these on separate monitors, right? And so the game's paused. If I come back over here, you can see the game's paused right now. It's still running, it's just paused. And so what I can do is I can come over into the breakpoint, and I can mouse over damage, and it tells me how much damage, well, it's not set yet. Let's unset you and do you instead, and hit resume. Now it breaks again. Okay. And now I can check the damage value. So it broke before the damage value was set, which is kind of counterintuitive. So here you can actually sit here and mouse over the pins, and it tells you the sock goblin is taking 50 points of damage. If you mouse over health, its health is currently 60. 60 minus 50 is 10. So it's setting the health to be 10. The current value is 60. It will very soon not be 60. And then you could set a breakpoint like here if you want, so that like when it dies, it'll break. And we hit resume, and now something is dying. So the sock goblin is now negative 40 health, so it is going to the die mode, and it will play the goblin death sound and then destroy itself. So, and then you can just hit resume if you want, and here's one shot, and there's two shots, and then it breakpoints again. Breakpoints are very useful, very, very useful. So, and you can, you know, step through the blueprint and things like that as well, and then resume when you're ready to resume the game. Super useful stuff. I use print string not because it's good, but just because that's how I code. Like, I start with like 3 blueprints and just put a print on it, just to make sure it works, that it's getting there. You know what I mean? The biggest problem in Unreal Engine is just things don't work, and when they don't work, you just don't get any feedback at all, right? And so print string just is a really fast way for me to verify that something's happening at all. You know what I mean? Okay. But then you end up with those numbers floating around, and I don't know where they came from. Okay, so that's basically our class for today. Your job for Thursday is to make a traceline radial weapon. I'm not sure why that radial damage wasn't applying to those people. I'll need to look more into it. So what I did instead of doing the radius damage, for whichever reason, these are set for any damage, right? Yeah, any damage. Yeah, you can have different events for like direct damage and radial damage, but any damage should work on all of them. And it just didn't seem like it was working for some reason. And that's the problem with Unreal Engine, is like when something doesn't work, you're just like, why? Why are you not working? But, you know, if you have enough skills, you can, I guess, just work your way around it, you know what I mean? And so what I did to work my way around it was I did a radial search. So wherever the rifle hits, this line trace here tells you where the rifle hit. I do a little explosion thing, and then I do a radius search around that point. And so you can have a different starting point and ending point, at which it's like a cylinder kind of. It'll take a ball and slide it through the world and tell you everything it hit. A lot of times when I do a radius search, the starting point and the ending point are the same. And then it's like you throw a grenade explodes, I do a multi-sphere trace, and with the same starting point and ending point. That's just the grenade's location. Blows up, tell me everybody within 50 meters of it or whatever, you know, and then for each element, for each thing that it hit, do something. Right? So what I'm saying here is for everybody that was within 10 meters of the, for each person that was within 10 meters of the explosion, give them 50 points of damage. So this is a basic radial damage, no fall off type thing. Okay? You guys understand your job for Thursday? I will screenshot this thing here. Let me just make a little more room. I wonder if there's like a export or something. It'd be nice if there was just like a save this blueprint as a JPEG, you know, kind of thing. I bet there is somewhere. Just not seen it. Okay. So there you go. And there you go. So thanks for coming out. There's your homework for Thursday. And if you have trouble getting to work, just message me. It'll be office hours like in 45 minutes. So I'm just going to go make a little snack, and then I'll be back on for office hours in 45. Just message me and I'll help you work you through it. Because it's usually just a matter of like something's not said or something in an Unreal Engine. Like I said, if it doesn't work, you're just like, what's happening? Nothing's happening. You know? So it often helps just having a second pair of eyes looking at it until you've done it enough that you're like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I know what's happening. But until then, the learning curve is a little bit steep when just like nothing happens. Okay. Great. That's it for today. I will see you guys on Thursday, bright and early at 1:30 in the afternoon. All right. Peace out.